Call this meeting to order. It is Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. It's 10 a.m. and we're here to continue the discussion of solid waste wages. So I will. We asked that you guys got together with roads and so forth. So let's go ahead and decide how that all went and what we determined. And
so after meeting with Jessica. The concern was that that solid waste starting wage would be the $21.42. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the case. That was for an experienced Class A CDL driver.
Okay.
And we still have other employees that are under that.
Okay.
The roads starting wage is $20.53.
Okay.
So, in order to kind of fix everything, we went ahead and we're now proposing our starting class. This is for an experienced Class A driver. Mm-hmm. This is not, a spotter. This is not, anything else than experienced.
Yep.
We are proposing $20.44. Okay. So that puts us 9 cents under roads, but that was the closest I can get us. Okay. So hopefully there's no more misunderstanding, anything there.
And one of the things is what we'll have to do is make sure that we get these applicants. If we can't find applicants, it's we're gonna have to do something different. So
with that being said, with that adjusted, we worked out. So we have had an open position for the last 3 months. Mm-hmm.
We can share.
Can you share?
We can share. Oh, I just gave one to Timmy, so you'll have one.
Okay. So we've had an open position for the last 3 months. And that position's pay was at $22.15 an hour. Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the last 3 months, essentially we have saved $11,695 just in wages.
Okay.
So if we split that up over the next 3 months and cover the raises for everybody, that comes out to $9,270. So we're still coming in below what our budgeted line item is.
Okay.
And that essentially.
So we won't have to reopen the budget.
No.
Okay.
No, we do not.
Okay. Good.
And that comes from the open position from the last
saved.
3 months.
Then that happened in the sheriff's office where we, with the jail staff, they had open positions, and so that's where we're able. So we understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if there was anything, I know kind of what we talked about, but sure. I'm not sure if there was anything else there that needed to be said.
So for us in our department, I would like to just back Richard up on, we had a great meeting. We had a great productive meeting. I think I learned a lot from him. He learned a lot from me. Our departments are similar in requirements for what you need to start, but they're very different. They're not really comparing apples to apples. Solid waste is a very different department than public works. No department is more important than any of the other ones, and really want to make clear to the board and the public that Public Works, myself especially, we are supportive of solid waste. We are supportive. We feel that they do need to get raises. They were left behind. I've said that for a very long time. I just want to be really clear about that. Where I think things got a little hung up with the misunderstandings were, the information available to my employees and myself was, what we watched on the videos. And so I think there were some things that, we weren't clear about. Whether it was $2 across the board or, does everybody start at this rate of the, 21 and change? And so there were a lot of things clarified. Our Class A's, his Class A's are used a little bit differently than our Class A's. Class A's for us aren't necessarily like Owen pointed out, we need a Class A, not a Class B, if we want to haul our skid steer on a trailer with a pickup. Because of the weight that they're hauling. And so that's, there are requirements that we do use our Class A's daily. Right now we have 22 employees. We have 22 positions. We have 17 filled right now, so we have 5 openings. Of those, we have 10 Class A's. We have 4 Class A's with the interstate, and then we do have a few Class B's. So where it's hard to completely match up, we're not going to be able to match up employees across the board, and we shouldn't, look at that. Their department is their department, our department is our department. We shouldn't try to match that up because they use their Class A's differently than us. We use our, Class B's differently, and so there are some differences with that. So I think that's important. They're on the old county style matrix where ours is a little more fleshed out. And so the movement looks a little bit different in that. Whereas our starting wage is the $20.53, whereas theirs is at a tiered level. And we are starting the process of the beginnings of the wage study. And that's something that I believe by the time it's all said and done will be addressed as a whole. It's nothing that's going to be taken care of immediately, but it will be recognized and be able to be evaluated. But we all know that that's the process, and we must wait until that's completed and the findings come through. And it's going to be more of a process. But at this point, we don't want to stand in the way. We certainly don't want to be any roadblocks for, them to be able to hire employees. I know how long they've had that position open for the driver and not able to get applicants. It is something down the line that they'll probably run into again. We have 5 open positions. Even though we've been on a light hiring freeze, the positions are still posted. In the last 5 months, we've had 1 applicant for those positions. So it's just a big thing. And but I really just want to reiterate our support. I feel that all the employees are valued. They just perform differently.
Okay. Yeah. When what we want to do is make sure when we do find a pay matrix that it is fair between all parts of the county, where even the clerk's office and the sheriff's office, where everything, we want to make sure that there's, when the pay matrix comes out, that we don't have any problems like we've had in the past. So has everybody reviewed the pay increases and everything on that?
This, what you gave us last time, is still.
Yeah, let's give them a different one. It's in kind of looking in.
So this is the adjusted for the.
This is just with the description added into it.
Yeah. So, and this is all, I believe. So this is adjusted for the 2044. Sorry, that's all I've got. Oh, nope, here's one more.
So not everybody is getting across the board $2.
Yeah, it's not.
And that just brings everybody up to
par, and it's where we had to do it for our
to stay on our pay schedule.
Pay scale.
Yeah.
And it's what we discussed a year ago when we brought it up $2 and said we were trying to get the other 2 to get you closer to Public Works.
Okay.
Do we know when that pay study is going to be done?
Not really. We've decided who was going to do it, so it just depends on what the time that
they started the process.
They just started the process.
There are kind of 5 phases. What was explained, I sat in on the meeting because we do have some department heads and elected officials that were asked to sit in on the meeting, and there are going to be approximately 5 phases of it. We're in phase 1. We just started phase 1 with our meeting yesterday, and some of the phases will move quicker than others. I think they hope to have it done before the end of the year. I don't believe it's gonna be done before the end of the fiscal year, but they, it will be thorough.
Okay. Now, does the clerk's office have any concerns or anything? Is everything all right with the?
Well, I think they're all worth $1 million, don't get me wrong. But I think before we start bumping everybody up, now, your truck driver that's gonna be driving 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day back and forth from Montana, absolutely he needs to make a good, decent wage. He's gonna he's gonna be driving the pass, he's gonna be doing it in winter. I mean, there are lots of variables with that. My concern is if we go up, everybody up at this right now to meet up with roads and we find out that the roads matrix is could be, and I'm not saying it's not, could be not okay. That if maybe they're getting paid too much or with different certifications and this and that. We're running a gamut. Now we've got 2 departments that we've got to figure out how to structure down. I don't know what the wage study is going to find. We don't know.
No, but we do have some general ideas because we've been doing some research the last couple of years, comparing to all of our neighboring counties and counties of our size. We have some general ideas. My expectation is we're going to find ourselves behind when the wage study's done.
Well, even being behind, you can be behind, and they can tell you, so we're all behind. But when there's no money to give raises and to do these, then
that's not the situation we're in.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems,
Right.
is because we're also looking at a they're a complete different department where.
But it's
outside,
all under the county.
Yeah, but I know, but it's all under the county. But one of the things is their budget is off of roads, is off of what they earn off of the solid waste fees and things like that. So, what we're doing right now is, that we've got too much money in there right now on the books where we haven't spent enough, and that's because we took capital out. Mm-hmm. And so I know, we do have the room, and so I'm just.
You do have the room,
mm-hmm.
but when you.
But who are we? The problem is solid waste is different than the clerk's office, and it's different than the courthouse.
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah,
I'm
so
just
that's
saying,
what I'm.
when you start plugging in those numbers on an L2,
mm-hmm.
we have to all. It's as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's not his department, her department, their department. It all that money gets in lines in departments. It all comes together, and it's all got to fit. And we just messed with it, and so we raised their budget up to $2 million, and it knocked us all out of the levy. So then we put 500, and then we took 500,000 or 525,000, I think, is what we took off of their cash forward, and I think we were still a little bit.
So you're talking about it's breaking the levy?
Well, just the way it moves.
It shouldn't break the levy because they're getting more money in on receipts from the solid waste
fees, the quarterly fees, the fees that people pay when they come in across the scale.
Right.
So we probably
recycle money. I mean, we make money.
Right. No. And so I was trying to get it so they're not having to levy any money.
Okay.
But in doing that, because bringing in their cash, it ruins our levy. It breaks our levy because there's so much cash. So the raising the rates or the pay will help with the budget. Putting in their capital will help, but then their budget goes from about 1.6 million a year to, I think I did it at 2 million or 2.1. And then the approved budget line goes up too much and turns all of the levy rates to red, where we've busted out of the levy again. We can only levy for 5,655,000. So we've got to stay within that, and that's taken their levy up. They're bringing in cash, and if you take cash away and then raise their budget, it looks good in different lines, but ultimately across the board, it will still bust the levy to a degree. Now, I think that if we give them some capital and a generous amount of capital to get some of these projects that they need done, that will help. That will be fabulous for them.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So if you guys want to come up at one at a time, and let's play with the L2s. So you can see what I'm talking about. It's really hard to explain until you see it in motion.
Okay.
And I know you can't do it all at once, but if you guys want to come in one at a time, let's.
So you're saying if all these raises went through, we would be breaking the levy?
Well, no, not necessarily.
It's because we have too much money.
Huh?
It's because we have too much money. As a solid waste department, we make our money.
They're
and we've been told for years
self-sufficient.
that we had no money to do any kind of repairs, and that's why we have the money we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my argument.
But what we need to do is figure out exactly what their income is per year, so that we can base that on what their budget is going to be, and hold the 25% over. You got to figure out your total income. That means you got to project your income on all the receipts that you come in from the fees and so forth, and then you've got to add your 25% to the budgets you have now, and see if you come in. It's all projecting. I mean.
Yeah, so I project, without them levying money, that what they bring in is about 1.6 million for themselves.
So,
And that's with their residential fees, certified fees, all their fees, their interest and ground rent. And I spent a lot of time with Shelby, breaking that down and figuring out what all that was.
And what's the total budget right now?
So I have it at about 1.7, but that'll go up because I put in $160,000 for capital. This is my original. I put like $160,000, but if we went up to 500, we would be about 2.1.
So my question is what would just these wage increases bring the budget up to?
I would move the wage increases. I haven't popped that in, but I could do it pretty.
And that would
quickly.
be my argument. If we can put this money into capital so easily, why can't we put it into wages?
And that's
less into capital,
Right.
but
I
pay
say
our
that
guys.
we put it in and see exactly what it does to your budget and pop it in the levy.
And we
I'll
have
just look at it that
cash
way.
for capital, and that when we've got to use the cash for capital because we got to bring that cash down because we didn't have
Let's use some of it to pay our guys.
Well, what I'm saying is that we want to make sure that what you bring in is going to meet what your payroll is.
Absolutely, yeah.
We don't want to be borrowing money, and you have like $800,000, $1 million in cash. We don't want to use that cash and inflate your budget and then come down the line and then you're not going to have money.
I totally get that.
That's what I want to do is make sure.
And ultimately, the goal is, because you always want to have some cash by all means, because in your department,
That's what I
when
said,
something
25% at the end of the year is what they need to put into their budget.
Right, but they need to even have more of a cushion, not just that, because if they're, one of their pieces of machinery, if they have an engine go, that's a, couple $100,000 right there. So we have to be, we need to make sure that we have enough. But ultimately the goal is for them to generate the 1.6 million in revenue and then spend 1.6 million in, or it's 1.6, 1.7 right in there, in expenses, and leave some cash, because then they wouldn't be generating a whole bunch of extra cash.
But the other
So
thing is
that-
too is
that would work.
what the other thing too is the solid waste fee hasn't gone up in
Right.
15 years or 10
No,
years.
5
No.
5 years.
5 years?
Right.
Okay. So, we've got room everywhere so let's go ahead and I'd like to see how much the increases in pay would equal.
Yeah, they won't take me very long
Okay.
to pop that in.
To see what they're, so if they make $1.6 million a year, I want to see if that falls into that budget.
Yeah, then we'll have exact numbers that way, and then I'll show you where it's going to put.
Yeah, because right now their salary and benefit, they're about 700,000 roughly.
That was with that 3%.
That was with the
that
3%.
you guys had discussed before. So those are the numbers I used. Was everything I used so far
Mhm.
has been at that 3% that you guys wanted to
And
look
those are
at
rough
to
numbers.
start with, right? Okay.
That's
But I'll
with the
just go
3%.
with these numbers exact, and
Without the 3.
without
Or with-
the 3, I'll
okay.
just put this proposed number in to show
Okay.
it that way.
Okay.
Well, my concern is we've been kicking this can for 2 years. So if we can't make a decision today, I sure would like to make sure we're on the agenda. I think we need to be on the agenda for them for the tipping floor information next week. I think we should make sure that we're on the agenda for this as well.
Or we could do a motion if it does float out
In their
in the budget, then we'll approve it.
Who's going to determine if it floats out?
Well, we can get that in next week. They can bring that this week, or bring it by Tuesday.
So you're wanting those true numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're at 700,000, that means bumping them up that much, it's not going to be a huge amount of money in wages.
From the numbers we have. Right?
For the numbers we
But
have,
we can,
because
yeah.
these are with the 3%. So
yeah, like I said, it won't take long to pop it in and get you some
Okay.
actual numbers, and Lori can look at it on the levy. And
Okay. So we'll just put it on. We'll just push that till next Tuesday. We'll get the solid numbers to make sure that we're not going over the 1.6 million.
yeah,
Everybody in agreement?
it wouldn't be. It's not going to put them over that.
I'm ready to act today, so that's up to you guys.
Well, I'd like to see what the the income and expense is. We don't. That's the problem. Is are they going to go over the 1.6 with this amount?
No, because we're the 1.6, 700,000 of that is would be for their wages and benefits. No, it will be fine. No, they will be fine.
Okay.
They will be fine. It won't go over. When the capital or when their cash starts dwindling way down, they may need to restructure a few line items a little bit, but there's enough room there.
Let's push it out to next Tuesday. I want to look at this. That's my feeling, because I really want to look to make sure that we're not going to bust the 1.6 million. And if you'd run those numbers for me, that'd be great. And then show me the total of the budget and the total of the receipts and see where we're at. As I'd feel more comfortable that way, personally.
Well, may I ask Commissioner Cowles where you are on it?
Well, more information is better, so I'm hearing Lori, but yeah, it would be nice to see that and just make sure, because sometimes it starts out great, but then all of a sudden you're in trouble, another year from now so I just want to make sure that it all looks good. And we're going to be all
And
right.
remember the numbers that I gave you for revenue, that 1.6, that's without levying.
Yeah.
That's not levying any money.
Mm-hmm.
So, at that point, they could always levy for money. They are capable of levying for money if needed be. And if they were going to levy for money, I want to say that they can levy
Okay.
at
Bless you.
they
And
can levy at 0.0004. So they can, there's definite room for them to levy.
Okay.
I just didn't want them to levy this right now because they have the cash and it's a burden on the taxpayers. If they don't need it, they don't need it. So let's get them out of it.
So basically, they can levy if it were in the future,
Absolutely.
and then your fees. Your
Oh, yeah.
fees have not increased in 5 years. So there are other.
So which fees are you talking about? Are fees that people go across the scale, or actual residential solid waste fees?
Yeah,
Solid waste.
The residential,
Yeah.
because we have two sets
Yeah.
of fees.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How does the board feel about if the board feels that we need to put this off till next week? Does the board feel that we could still make this retroactive to July 1st if we decide to go ahead with it?
It'd be June 25th.
June 25th.
Yeah. Does
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you'd still be in your pay,
Yes.
this pay period.
Yeah, we can discuss that Tuesday.
Are you going to be available?
Yeah, I can be available. I'll see where we're at. So.
Okay.
Okay. We'll schedule it for Tuesday. Earlier the better. 9 o'clock?
Sure.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys Tuesday. Anything further? Any question? Any public comment?
Yeah, just clarification, it's the wage benefits. I always say it at every meeting that it's brought up. The other thing is solid waste has always carried a lot of cash. Ever since I've been doing this in 16, it's not because ARPA funds was paying all the capital, we just were making money off of it. I think Damien Groves presented a good deal on lowering the rates on the residential garbage. We're making too much money. I don't want to see us just throwing money out just so we get less cash. And last thing, Richard, how do your operators compare to roads?
I personally can't compare because I've never worked for roads.
But wage-wise.
Wage-wise, so in my proposed, I don't know if you have a copy of my proposed.
Yeah.
So is what I did is I went through the roads operators and I tried to match everybody up as close as possible. So in my proposed, it would be pretty even. Right now, we're behind.
Okay. Now, I've always said you guys have been underpaid for years,
Mm-hmm.
since the matrix went in.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. There's nothing further. We're adjourned. Thank you.